Final play we got to talk about. Daquan Felton at Virginia Tech comes down with a huge Hail Mary. He catches it, but there's like 8 bodies in the back of the end zone. And they call it a touchdown on the field after some delay. They go review. Here's what the ACC call said after they reversed it, said it was incomplete, gave Miami the win, kept Miami undefeated, and ignited many, many conspiracy theories. Here's what the ACC said. During the review process of the last play of Virginia Tech at Miami, it was determined that the loose ball was touched by a Miami player while he was out of bounds, which makes it an incomplete pass and immediately ends the play. Miami defensive back Dylan Day had jarred it loose and was out of bounds when he recovered the football, and that resulted in an incomplete pass. I mean, sure, if that's what they saw on the monitor, okay, that's fine. It was a very jumbled mess. My question is, when did they decide that possession was done, or that he didn't have possession? Because you had 8 guys come in. He catches the ball. He lands with like 6 other guys.
Well, he didn't quite catch it. He never really
bobbled
had
it. But he kind of had it, bobbles it, and then Miami like rips it out. Drawing the line for when he had possession and when the ball is touched. I mean, Chris, am I being too harsh to say that you're guessing?
Well, I was surprised they called it a touchdown on the field. I mean, that did not look clear at all.
That and then was guessing. They didn't seem like they had a good read
no,
on that at all.
Not at all.
And then you go into, all right, is it enough to overturn? I couldn't tell if he caught it or not, or when he did, but the explanation that they didn't give till after the fact, the explanation the ref should have announced, which was the correct call, that a Miami player, while the ball was moving around, was out of bounds and touched it. Because the Virginia Tech guy catches it, he's laying on top of somebody else while he's trying to catch it. A Miami guy's out of bounds, touches it. It's incomplete the second that guy touches it. And I think that was a good call. They didn't explain it well, and it was a real mess of kind of how they handled that. But do you say, hey, you call it a touchdown so you can review it and you kind of do all that thing? I think the way they kind of executed it was weird, but they ultimately got the right call. So I'm not going to be like too up in arms about it.
Do they ever get to a point where, like, and this is just a make-believe scenario, but for situations like this, because the process and reviewing it and the miscommunication between obviously coaches, players, everybody, like, why can't they get to a point where, like, if there's a call that's just that up in the air and you just absolutely don't know, because we're sitting here talking about they were just guessing, whether you called it a touchdown, like, it was a guess. Can they just go and be like, we just need to go to video review? Like, is that a bad idea? To where it's like you don't have to make a call, because there's so many factors, and obviously all these officials have so many different angles. Instead of immediately giving a signal, just get together, talk, and then get on the mic and be like, hey, after discussion, we need to go to video review. That way you don't have people thinking, all right, we just won the game, and then you rip it away from them, or vice versa. You know?
Yeah,
interesting.
They are incentivized to let it play out. And sometimes there's a fumble and a guy returns it for a touchdown. You're like, I didn't think that was a fumble. They do that. So then if it's a touchdown, it's automatically reviewed. And so that is the incentive to kind of, if you're not sure, lean one way, because we're going to go to review anyway. That is sort of the unofficial way to officiate it. That is what they're doing. It's why I think they called it a touchdown initially, because live, I don't know how else you would have.
Well, I think I missed who tweeted this the other day, but I think there's some good ideas to it. There's a lack of transparency with the entire replay process in general. And I don't know, nobody watches the UFL, but for people who do, you did, Chris. Well, you and 10 other people. But what they do in the NFL is when they do replay reviews, the officials are mic'd up. You can hear the conversation. You can hear the conversation between the booth and the officials, and it gives some transparency for you to understand how they're getting to that decision. And we could have heard some of these explanations, or we could have heard, where guys are at. I don't think the leagues are really interested in doing anything like that.
Sounds like a story.
Yeah, it does, Chris. Maybe you should write about that. I don't think the leagues are really interested in doing that, but I think it would help in situations like these where you have games that are literally decided. I mean, we saw this with
Arkansas State, Central Arkansas, when they literally got it wrong via review. It would have been nice to hear that.
But Colorado last week against Baylor, that game is decided via video review. It looked like the fumble came out in overtime, but you got to look at it and decide. And you have guys huddled around a monitor deciding who won the game and sorting these things out. I'd like to see something close to that, but I'm also a journalist. I'm big into transparency. That's kind of what we do. And I don't think we're going to see that, but it would help in situations like these because, like it or not, Chris, you're gonna have, I'm halfway joking about these conspiracy theories, but it goes back to the Mark Mangino rant in like 2007. Why they do it? BCS, it's those dollar signs. The ACC, there's no question. There's a motive there. You're incentivized to get as many teams in the playoff as possible. Miami losing does not help you get teams in the playoff. So if you want to paint a conspiracy theory, it's there. I'm not saying it happened, but these situations fuel that when there's no transparency.
Same thing with the Michigan-Minnesota onside kick that was offside, which I think was the right call. But again, be very clear about that.